Hey everyone, welcome to this edition of Stream On. I'm Jim Williams, your host. Now, today we're going to take a look at what I think is one of the best and most cutting edge companies out there when it comes to developing programming and getting it in front of large audiences. Now, Michael Wayne is the CEO of Kin. They develop lifestyle franchises that work across platforms. Now, they specialize specifically in creating programs that they first get to profitability by using, social platforms like YouTube and Facebook Watch as they bring them along with hopes of eventually getting them, some of them, not all of them, to the streaming services and network television. Now, the Kin formula is very unique. First off, they identify talent that has both name recognition with strong social media followings. Now, that's crucial because what happens here is these people who are talent are very relatable and very appealing to their social media following. Now, that's key because those social media platforms can then be turned into viewers who are less passive and more part of what, in essence, is a communal experience. So, Kin has what I think is a wonderful business model. And Michael, let's talk a little bit about how you got started with Kin and how these different social media superstars are becoming more mainstream.
That's right. I mean, our model is based on and really starts with finding talent that have large social followings across platforms, that have strong passions for different types of lifestyle programming, which is types of lifestyle content. And so the way we start is we identify talent that we think would make for a good series, a good online series.
Sure.
We'll work with that talent to develop a concept, and we'll finance a series that starts on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. And then what we have found to be a really fast-growing part of our business over the last few years is then after the series attracts an audience online on those social platforms, we've been able to repackage and re-edit that series and take it to streaming platforms and linear TV networks.
It's funny that you should mention that. Recently, we were talking to some executives from PBS, and they actually have gone now into the mini doc part of YouTube and Vimeo and some of the others, and they're literally finding some of the best new, short documentaries that are being done on YouTube and on all different styles of social media. And to your point, they're taking those things and package them, putting them with not only with the digital portion of PBS, but also airing some of them, mixed together on linear PBS.
Well, I'm going to give a shout out to my old friend Ira Rubinstein at PBS. He and I worked together at Sony Pictures,
right,
many, many years ago. So he is one of, and some of the folks at PBS are old school digital folks who I think really get it. And there are a bunch of us who have stayed in the business and have continued to find new ways to create programming, kind of leveraging all of our experience in having grown up in the digital space. So not surprised, they're doing great things there.
Well, I think that what you're doing with Kin is very impressive because if you look at your roster of programming, it's a very diverse, very interesting, and the shows are very entertaining.
Well, I appreciate that. Look, social platforms have done a great job of super serving audiences that historically have been underserved. And, when we launched Quick Fix, which was really the first show we've launched where we worked with a more traditional celebrity like Tia Mowry. That show really grew extraordinarily quickly. I mean, in the first 3 months of launching that show, we were able to, grow the audience to over 500,000 followers.
Wow.
And that's very fast growth for anyone. I don't, most, very big YouTubers, if you look back to their first 3 months of being on the platform, they don't grow that quickly. So we realized very quickly that, we were onto something when we launched the show, and it grew so quickly. And what we realized was that there was really an opportunity to create this lifestyle programming, the celebrity-driven programming towards certain diverse audiences, Black audiences, Latino audiences, Asian American audiences across these platforms. There was certainly a lot of programming on these platforms already, targeting those audiences, but we feel like we kind of created even a higher quality, more kind of premium, I guess you could say, type of programming targeting those audiences on those platforms.
Well, I mean, what you've done clearly is you've amped up what they've done. You've taken, as someone who's been a producer for 45 years, it's one thing to watch talent and sit there and go, okay, that person's talented. They would be even more talented if we could just, soften the rough edges and give them a much better, cleaner platform. And you clearly have done that.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, so before we started creating series with, again, more traditional TV talent like Tia Mowry or Adrienne Bailon Houghton, we had been in business for 8 to 10 years working with more digitally native talent. Our business started in 2007 working with bloggers, and taking them to online video. And then, we were one of the first YouTube premium funded channels. And we worked with our own talent, and we worked with YouTubers, more digitally native YouTubers. And so we had developed over many years this expertise working on social platforms. So when we met Tia and other talent like Tia who had large Instagram followings, we realized that we could kind of take this expertise over the last 8 to 10 years and really apply it to these new series we were doing, as well as take our production model, which relies on very high quality, cameras and post-production editing, and if you look at our content, it looks beautiful because over the years we really adopted this really high quality production model. So a lot of pieces just came together 4 years ago when we launched Tia Mowry's Quick Fix, and it's really served us well over the last 4 years as we've launched over 20 of these shows.
Why don't you take us through the process, from the first time you see someone that you feel is worthy of going through the process with you guys, and all the way to the end product, just so we get a feel for how this works.
It sounds good. So the process, as I mentioned before, starts with talent, and we have a pretty rigorous scorecard. We call it a scorecard for deciding on what talent we want to work with. And that scorecard has many quantitative bullet points on it, or and many qualitative bullet points on it. So we look at is the talent trending? Are they growing? How fast are they growing on social platforms? Do they have TV experiences? Are they just really online talent? How engaged is their audience across platforms? How big a personality do they have? How passionate are they about different categories of lifestyle? What do they else have going on? Do they have Are they on a TV show presently? Are they in movies presently? So I can just go through the list. I mean, there's just a lot of things that we look at to evaluate, would a talent be right for us? And then inevitably we meet with talent. We talk to them. We kind of get a sense for how passionate they are about creating a new brand in a particular lifestyle vertical.
Right.
How passionate are they about kind of doing the hard work that it takes to make an online series? And we craft the concept together with the talent. You know, it's important to note the deals we do with our talent, I think, are not typical Hollywood type talent deals.
Right.
You know, we when we started the company, we really believed that the internet was disrupting, you know, every part of the entertainment business. And as talent developed these large one-on-one relationships with their audiences, we realized the way you create content, particularly in the unscripted or lifestyle space, you needed to create a different type of talent agreement. So our talent are really true business partners in our programming. They produce it with us. They participate with us in the success. And so we look at all of those factors as we decide on who would make sense to partner with. And then we go into a pretty traditional development process where we'll figure out, you know, what the first 8 episodes will look like. You know, again, it's a little different than TV in the sense that we know some things are going to work, some things are not going to work. And because we have an data and analytics team, we know that when we launch a show, inevitably we're going to learn from these social platforms what's working and what's not. And that will continue to inform week in and week out, month in and month out, how we evolve the creative of a show. So we'll shoot a bunch of episodes in a shoot day. We tend to work in our talents' homes. And if not, we find homes that look like our talents' homes. We don't shoot in studios. We want it to feel authentic to the talent.
Right.
And then we'll roll out episodes across YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram every week. Those episodes will be on average about 12 to 16 minutes in length.
Right.
But we shoot enough to edit them into 22s. And then we'll hopefully grow audiences across those platforms. We'll monetize through advertising and through integrations and through e-commerce and affiliate links and things like that. And then over time we will look for streaming and TV partners who think that a 22-minute version of our shows could be successful on their platforms. And so we've done half a dozen license deals where we will license our programming to those platforms, and that's incremental revenue. We really look at these shows as first and foremost shows, but ultimately they can grow into franchises where we can have multiple revenue streams, multiple distribution points, and really look to build the IP in meaningful ways.
It's a branding play, right? I mean, at the end of the day.
Yeah, we're looking at building brands. That's right. I mean, these brands like Quick Fix and all things Adrienne and Hello Hunnay and a bunch of our shows are really brands that have taken on lives of their own. And we're continuing looking at exploiting them. I mean, Quick Fix is a 4-year-old brand, and it feels like it's just getting started. You know, we have multiple deals right now, big announcements coming out in the fall around Quick Fix, spin-off shows of Quick Fix. We did a show called Tia Mowry's Comfort Kitchen. That was a spin-off of Quick Fix. And Tia's excited. She's engaged. We've got a whole bunch of new ideas planned. So yeah, I mean, these things really don't have a beginning, middle, and end. They just keep going.
Well, what you had mentioned earlier about this not being quote unquote the traditional way of doing it, it's been my experience anyway that when you have talent that has skin in the game, right, as opposed to just you signing them to a contract for X amount of dollars, it's always better because it's just as much theirs as it is yours. And they want to, overperform, for lack of a better term, because as long as they're doing well, you're doing well, and it's a mutually beneficial relationship.
You hit the nail on the head. Ownership is very powerful. And I think that it was really interesting. We worked with YouTubers for many, many years.
Mm-hmm.
And a YouTuber, and this is the great part about social platforms in general, is that there are no development executives, there are no gatekeepers. Anyone with a camera can create a YouTube channel, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
But with YouTubers, what ended up in many cases happening was they'd own everything, but as their business would grow, they'd get more and more insular and more protective. And the idea of partnering with a third party was scary in many cases, I think, for folks, because for YouTubers, they kind of owned everything. They did everything in their own house. They controlled the process. But I think in many ways that may have limited some of the YouTubers' growth and them expanding into new platforms. On the opposite side, you had traditional talent who really didn't own anything throughout their careers. To your point, they got paid talent fees, but they didn't really have ownership. So when we created this model, we kind of realized the traditional TV talent probably wouldn't want to do all the heavy lifting of the YouTuber, right? And take years and years of just kind of chipping away at it.
Yeah, grinding.
In a sense, what we did was we could accelerate the learning, and we could take a lot of that heavy lifting off of the traditional TV talent's plate. And so far, that has really worked well. I think talent feel invested, but they feel like they've got a true business partner with us. And yeah, it's really worked out well. But to your point, I think this is the great, powerful aspect of the internet in general, and social platforms in particular, is that that there are no gatekeepers, right? Like, we can together go onto these platforms and create programming without having to go through a whole development team or a whole programming team at a traditional TV network or streaming platform.
Well, one of the things I think that you have been able to do, and it's something that is very important, and that is focus some of these incredibly talented people to realize that, you've got to, as you said, you have eight episodes, right? A lot of the folks that are on YouTube, they basically show up, they do a fun job of producing content, but they're not thinking what's episode 4, 5, 6, 8, 17 down the road, right? They're thinking about, what are we going to do this, maybe 2 or 3 at a time, but not long term. And I think what you've done, which I think is masterful, is realize that you can apply some traditional broadcast expertise without screwing up the organic aspect of the talent's real connecting to their audience.
Yes, I think in many ways the thing that the company does best, and I think what we really are trying to achieve, is bridging the social worlds, the social platforms, with the streaming linear worlds, right? And it is sometimes a challenge, and sometimes walking on a tightrope, because there are certain elements that make the algorithms on the streaming platforms work, and it's things like you're talking about. It's the talent being authentic, the talent being engaging, the talent being vulnerable, going to places where they typically wouldn't have gone to, even in reality shows, right? Like, this is more reality than reality shows, right?
Right.
But then there's on the other side, because streaming has become, or licensing our programming into the streaming platforms has become more a growing part of our business, we have to think about what episodes really can be optimized for both platforms. So I'll give you an example. I mean, we might give our talent a camera, and they might run around town kind of doing more of a vlog style video that might perform really, really well on a social platform. But when you re-edit or repackage it, it might seem maybe not so great, or maybe not as glossy, or not as premium, if you will. I'm doing the air quotes here, for a TV viewing audience. And so so we just constantly are thinking about how do we optimize our programming so that the programming works in both modalities. The mode where you're on your cell phone and you're looking at a YouTube video and you want to engage, but also that beautiful 65-inch HD screen where you're hanging out on the couch and watching. Like that's a lot of what we think through and what we spend our time trying to really optimize for.
It's funny, I will watch YouTubers often, and I find myself dropping them notes and saying, hey, this is really good, but if you just did this, this, and this, I think you'd even make it better. And it's fun because they've been very kind to either respond positively or respond that thanks, but we're doing it the way we want to do it, which is fair enough. It's fine, that's the way it goes. But one of the great things about streaming, which is very helpful to your project and others, is no longer do you need 5 or 10 or 20 million viewers to attract audiences or to attract sponsors. I mean, right now we're in a world of narrowcast. We're in a world where you or I, primetime is whenever we want it to be. And there's the only appointment television anymore would be sports and news. Everything else, is whenever you feel like it. And I think that it really hits it hits your target really well.
I couldn't agree more. I would take it a step further and say that the economics are still kind of out of whack. I'll give you an example. Our shows get viewed, by hundreds of thousands of people on a weekly basis.
Right.
And we produce episodes for a fraction of what many reality shows get produced for. Sure. On streaming platforms or cable networks, and we know that their audiences are smaller than ours. So you definitely, the economics are still shifting, and in many ways that's a great opportunity for us because we know that in a sense our programming is swimming upstream, that we have a more engaged, more connected audience to our programming than what we think we're seeing on streaming platforms or linear television. That audience is growing, but we haven't yet fulfilled the sort of monetization opportunity that's ahead of us. We think there's even more opportunities moving forward as audiences shift. I'm sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say, to your point, the fact of the matter is that you can actually, I mean, with subscribers on YouTube and the way that, and Instagram, I mean, you literally have, forget Nielsen, right? You can say, look, we have 4, 5, 6, 800,000, people who literally have subscribed to this and they watch it, and the streams are, in the multiples of the low to mid millions.
Yeah, that's what you've just outlined is essentially the what is happening real time in the market. We have an audience that when we sell against very detailed analytics, very detailed quantifiable metrics, right? When someone buys an integration or an ad, they know exactly how many views their ad is getting and who that audience is and where they're watching and how long they engaged in it. And that is very hard to do on streaming and linear platforms.
Right.
So, and I would say there's another thing that's really kind of important here, is that we own all of it.
Right.
We own all of our IP.
That's more than important. That's the game right there, my friend.
Well, that's right. And look, I don't want to knock any of my TV compatriots, my TV producing compatriots out there, because I think there's amazing programming being created. But I think, and you're a TV producer, so I'd love your 2 cents on this. But I think that the idea of, getting paid a lot of money to produce a show and getting a 10% fee, or, maybe you squeeze out 20%, but you're kind of a work for hire TV production company, is just a tough model, and will get tougher down the road. And so we much prefer, it's not and the reality is, I think, and this is why I'm so bullish about our business, is that understanding how to navigate platforms, social platforms, streaming platforms, having expertise, having a data practice that can kind of look at how programming is performing, having a talent group that kind of can identify talent, not just based on qualitative things, but a whole litany of quantitative things. We feel like those skill sets are only going to get more important. And so I do think that traditional TV production is sort of trapped in this model where, there's still, companies still spend $250,000, $500,000 on a half-hour reality show format or unscripted format, and so those dollars are way bigger than ours. But again, I feel like we're skating to a puck with a lot more experience, a lot more expertise, and ultimately that's gonna rule the day down the road.
You're kind of like the old days, okay? When Louis B. Mayer, had MGM, right? They basically had a system by which they created the stars. They owned the content. The stars were part of that, creative process, and that was the format that they used to develop, motion pictures, in large part in the 40s and 50s. And so you've kind of stolen an old Hollywood way of the old factory development aspect of it and streamlined it. But to the point that you're talking about, the concept of spending, $27 million, okay, on a yearly series of 26 episodes is just preposterous. It is a failed system.
It is, the audiences get smaller, and yet fees go up. And so that's going to break at some point. I don't know when that's going to break, but it feels like it's starting to break already. As your point about MGM, I think there's one fundamental difference with today, and that is that most media and entertainment models historically were about putting a dam in the river. I'm using a pretty general metaphor, right? So you kind of had to go through the dam. They kind of controlled how the river would flow.
Right.
And I think what the internet did is it kind of created a new model where the river always goes around the dam. Every time you think you can put a dam in the river, the water will flow around it. And I think the way to be successful in that new reality is by understanding not how to put a dam in the river, but how to flow with the river. And flowing with the river means understanding you need to create different types of talent deals where you just don't control them, where you actually work with them. You have to understand the algorithms, so you need to be really smart about data and not just collecting data, but analyzing data. And you need to be able to adapt and adjust and move and change and evolve very quickly, because the river will just keep flowing around you if you don't. And I think that essentially, I mean, I know it's kind of a stretched metaphor, but I think that essentially is what's going on in the entertainment business right now, is that the water's flowing around a lot of these older traditional models, and they haven't quite yet figured out how to swim in that new river.
It's true. I mean, but if you even look at the aspect of streaming services, they're now producing episodes of shows for 10 or 12. The old 22, 24 aspect is no longer as important.
That's right.
So they are slowly, glacially moving toward a more streamlined process, but it's going to take a while to get there. And to your point, I don't know if you've ever seen. I have one of my favorites on YouTube is Grace Helbig, and Grace does comedy, but she also does cooking, and she does it with HelloFresh. And I know some of the people from HelloFresh, and they love her. And they said they don't care that she screws things up from time to time. They just love the fact that she sells more HelloFresh than some of the television ads that they put on traditional television.
First of all, Grace is great talent, and she's awesome. And you bring up a brand like HelloFresh, which I think is really a good example of where the market has moved. I mean, in the last 5-10 years, you've seen this explosion of direct-to-consumer brands like HelloFresh. And why? In large part, it's because these brands have figured out a way of targeting audiences much more, basically they've been able to target audiences far more efficiently by using social platforms and by using Google than buying ads on TV, which is far less efficient, right? So most of our brands, or certainly a large part of our brands, are direct-to-consumer brands who look at our programming as efficient, and it converts for them, just like HelloFresh and Grace Helbig, right? It converts. And that is just another example, I think, of how the industry is becoming much more efficient and using data and using engaged audiences, and kind of, it's less. It sounds a weird way of putting it, but it's less wasteful, right? There's not wasted audience, or there's not audience that is.
Well, you're not scattershot, right? You're not hoping.
That's right.
To get it, you've got a finite audience. You know who the audience is, and you don't have to pray that you get some people out there that accidentally stumble upon it. And in full transparency, HelloFresh is one of my sponsors, so I should be happy for them too. So anyway,
well, that's great. I think they may have sponsored one of our shows.
So they've touched us all, so we're good. We love them. They're good people. So, but again, the reason I brought it up was because Grace does such a great job of making the dish hilarious, but at the same time, she ends up with the actual dish. So, good on her. All right, we've come to the point in time where it's shameless plugs. Just tell us where we can watch your outstanding content, and some of the things, follow you on social media, and some things that people should be checking out if they haven't checked it out already, and some things that they should be looking forward to in the future.
So all things Adrienne's show, Hello Hunnay with Jeannie Mai, is great. Jeannie Mai and Adrienne are actually on a daytime talk show called The Real, so that's great. We have a show with Angela Simmons called Just Angela. We've got a show called Side by Side with Malika and Kadisha Hawk. Really Truly Maybe with Christina Milian, who's awesome as well. And we do have a whole host of shows coming out that we haven't announced throughout the fall. We have a number of deals we're going to be announcing with streaming platforms and linear networks. You can catch some of our shows today on TV One and Clio TV. We have a deal with Up Entertainment and Aspire TV to distribute some of our shows. And again, this over the summer and into the fall, we're going to announce another group of shows that we're launching and shows that we're licensing. So stay tuned there.
Super. And you promise to come back and talk to us about it when that comes up?
I would love to. This has been fun. I appreciate you having me on.
It's always good to find out more content and good content, and clearly you have both. And so you're part of the family now. So one way or another, we'll hunt you down.
Great. I look forward to it.
Special thanks to our guest, Michael Wayne, the CEO of Kin. We'll have all the information on Kin in our show box below. We'll be back with more right after this from BMW, the ultimate driving machine.
At BMW, we know leaving the road wasn't easy, but anticipating our return taught us to appreciate every drive. The exhilaration of the ultimate adventure. Moments spent with your favorite co-pilots. And the freedom to explore just because. Our time to rejoin the road is finally here.
Welcome back, everybody. Now, if you're not one of the over 75,000 people worldwide who've taken the time to subscribe to our podcast, first of all, shame on you. Second of all, we make it simple. It's free. You can find us at the Apple Podcast Store or over at Google Play. You can find us at Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify, as well as iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, Amazon Music, and, of course, YouTube. Now, if you have an assistant device, very simple. Just say, hey, play Stream On with Jim Williams, and the latest edition will pop right up. Now, if for some reason, after all that, you still can't find us, simple enough. All you have to do is pull out the old Google machine, type in Stream On with Jim Williams, hit the favorite button or subscribe button. Every week you're going to get a brand new edition of the show sent directly to your phone, your tablet, or to both, okay? Make it simple, make it easy. Please join the party. We have a lot of fun. We also have a lot of feedback. We enjoy you engaging us in social media. All that information is in the show box below. Many times we'll take your suggestions, and sometimes we'll even book guests and highlight shows that you have brought to our attention. So we're very interactive. We have a lot of fun with people. Please join the party and get involved, okay? All the information, again, on social media aspect of hooking up with us is in the show box below. So, it's a holiday weekend. What are we going to stream? Well, over on Netflix, Kevin Hart, who we all know is one of the top stand-up comedians in the country at this time, has really shown that he has some serious dramatic chops in the Netflix movie Fatherhood. Can't recommend it enough. Kevin Hart in Fatherhood. Then, who doesn't like Liam Neeson, right? I mean, this guy is a great dramatic actor, and he brings some intensity to almost everything that he's involved with. And such is the case with The Ice Road. And it's an original movie, Liam Neeson, also on Netflix. By the way, a couple of quick bingers over on Netflix. Check out Halston. It's a very, very interesting look at one of the greatest designers of our time. By all means, it's a bingeable show. Check out Halston. Talking about binging, well, over on Amazon Prime, it's the final season of the original drama Bosch. And look, I know everybody loves Bosch, and it's a fantastic show. If you haven't seen it, this is a perfect opportunity to check it out. Bosch, the final season over on Prime Video. HBO Max, No Sudden Move is the new movie which debuts on July the 1st. By all means, check it out. It's Steven Soderbergh's award-winning work. As we know that he has been fantastic. And this is an original movie. It's No Sudden Move on HBO Max. I highly recommend also, if you haven't seen it, check out Hacks. It's hilarious. Gene Smart in Hacks, also on HBO Max. Over on Hulu, it should be noted that I know a lot of people are still fans of Seinfeld. This is the last chance, folks. It's going to be leaving. So by all means, check out Seinfeld on Hulu if you haven't seen it. You've seen all the shows, but if you want to check out Seinfeld one last time on Hulu, then you better do it because it's going to be gone. Summer of Soul. Now, this is a documentary that debuts this week, and it's an original show. It's Questlove, who we all know and love from Jimmy Fallon's Tonight Show, takes a look at the history of soul, and it really is a fantastic documentary. I've seen some of the screeners on it. By all means, check it out. Paramount Plus. A lot of fun stuff. Now, they're pitching Star Trek Picard. Now, the new season, which is season 3 of Star Trek Picard, doesn't come until 2022. But if you haven't seen Star Trek Picard, those of you who are Trek fans, it's very interesting and definitely worth a look. Evil is also available. It's a smart thriller. It's about a priest starring David Acosta, which is Mike Cortair, and a forensic pathologist as they try to solve crimes. So check out Evil on Paramount Plus. I also suggest strongly that if you haven't had a chance to check it out, The Good Fight, also worth time over on Paramount Plus. Plenty of action this weekend from Wimbledon. You could check that out on ESPN. And also some Olympic trials left. They're going to find that on NBC's streaming service Peacock. Plenty of baseball action, so check your local listings on that one too. So there's all kinds of fun stuff. Celebration of fireworks, that's going to happen from the National Mall on PBS. Check it out. Macy's, that'll be NBC. And of course, the fireworks display in Boston. Everybody enjoys that. That's with the Boston Pops. All of 3 of those celebrations will be streamed. Check it out. As I said before, the National Mall, that's going to be on PBS, as will be the Boston Pops. NBC has Macy's. Okay? All right. So that takes care of all of the fun weekend programming as we get ready for a nice and probably warm, no matter where you are in the country, holiday weekend. So enjoy your holiday weekend. Be safe. Be careful out there. And even though we actually are getting to celebrate a holiday, be mindful of a little bit of social distancing, and by all means, take care and be safe. We want you to be here next week, okay? All right, everyone, for the entire team here at Stream On, we thank you for listening, and we hope that you'll be around next week to hear what's going on in the latest edition of Stream On. Take care and have a safe holiday weekend.